Good evening, Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, and happy Wednesday to everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is our Wednesday night study series. It is obviously something that we enjoy as a spiritual community because we take the lesson, the teaching, the book, the teacher, whatever that is, really, and we just use it as a catalyst to begin a conversation between us. And so we're excited to hear from you tonight and know that we will find the collective wisdom, we'll find the one mind that is working in, through, around, and as all of us. Welcome to Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, where the whole household of God is welcomed and wanted. White and black, gay and straight, male, female, transgender, atheist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, truth seeker, all of that. You are welcome in this place. It's a safe space. It's not a place where you're tolerated. It's a place where you are celebrated. We are in this year of our Fully Awake 365 devotion. Today is May the 10th. We are in the month of May. And so we want to start off our night tonight with a devotion. If you'd like to grab your devotion, grab it real quickly. We're on May the 10th. May is the month where we are understanding that we're not in trouble, that we are in transition. Maybe we can say that tonight. Maybe personalize it. I'm not in trouble. I'm in transition. Today or tonight, we're going to talk about spiritual restoration. Let's grab our prayer of surrender real quickly together. Spirit of truth, carry me where you will. Bring to me what you will. Take from me what you will. Awaken in me what you will. The Christ man is around me. The Christ mind is in me. The Christ power flows through me. And the Christ mystery exists as me. I believe it, I perceive it, and now I receive it. I am surrendered. Amen. And so it is. May 10th, Fully Awake 365. We're going to talk about spiritual restoration. Let's grab our affirmation together at the very top. Today, I will set my intention to be spiritual, not religious. Therefore, I will walk in a spirit of love with the desire to restore others. So, obviously, very popular cliche, something that's trending at what seems to be a tipping point in society, that everybody wants to be spiritual, but they don't want to be religious. It's interesting, sometimes I'm approached by people who believe that they're spiritual, then they say, no, I'm not promoting a religion, I'm promoting a relationship that is religious. A relationship with Jesus Christ is the way to connect to God. Those are religious dictates. Those are doctrines. Those are methodologies that follow a specific hierarchy, a caste, a way of projecting our connection to God onto all of humanity. And so we must remember that we are created in the image of God. We don't get to create God in our image or in the image of our religion. So if you say to yourself tonight, no, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. I believe in a relationship with Jesus. Good, if that's for you. But when you begin to project that idea onto others, then you are becoming religious. You're falling prey to all of that idea of converting, convincing others to think like you. So if I've got your attention, let's talk about what it really means to be spiritual tonight. I'm not religious. I am spiritual. Sorry, my dog's letting the cats know they're not welcome in our yard. I would venture to guess that all of us have heard someone or even ourselves say that phrase, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But if there is a societal demand for spirituality, how do we approach achieving this spiritual status? And maybe even achieving is something that is a religious word anyway, because in spirituality it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. So let me just give you a little bit of Pauline exhortation. I certainly know how to rightly divide. The Apostle Paul. Paul said this, brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. And so there's a lot to unpack with that idea. And I would not offer to you tonight that spirituality is in its totality summed up in this passage from Galatians. Spirituality is too big to fit into one scripture, one mantra, one hadith. Any spiritual book or teaching would not be able to contain spirituality. But I think this might be a good place for us to start, and probably if you're tuning in tonight, the Bible is probably something that's common in your life. You probably have been raised around that, at least in America. So let's grab two exhortations from what's offered to us here. Number one, instead of tearing down or attempting to disqualify others, restore them who have veered from their path of purpose. Now, if you believe that you understand what their purpose is, what their path is, you're already being religious. So, the restoration may not come in the form of specific advice. It might come in being an empathetic listener. It might come in the form of being encouraging them to find that path or find their true expression of their own divine self. When we restore someone spiritually, it is not to a specific religious path. Okay, so remember that if we're being spiritual and not religious, we're not restoring them to relationship with Jesus Christ, restoring them to their Orthodox Islamic expression. That's religious. So restoration is restoring someone to their true self, to their true identity, who they are in God, what they've been created to be. So that's be very vigilant that we don't become religious in the desire to be spiritual. Okay, number two, restore in gentleness. So not with a haughty spirit, not with a know-it-all, not with a I know better than you kind of attitude, not with insensitivity or damaging strength, or with a self-righteous attitude, remembering that we all have veered from the path of our intended destinies, our purposes, which are not specific to gender, sexual orientation, any specific religion, but our purpose is to become a divine expression in the material world. And so that can take many, many different forms, just as spirit is like H2O. It can take on a liquid, a gas, or a solid. We cannot put spirit into a specific container and say that the container is the spirit. The container is just something housing, and spirit will take on the form of the container. Obviously, the container being our gender, our country, our religion, our political opinions, all that. Okay, so listen to this. Yes, we meditate. We read enlightening books. We dialogue with those of other religious traditions. We watch Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sunday. All of this can be very spiritual, but maybe the journey of 1,000 miles begins with lovingly restoring others with a spirit of kindness. Maybe that's where we begin to be spiritual. All right, let's grab our prayer at the end tonight. Restorative God, awaken true spirituality within me. Give me the compassion to restore others with gentleness and from the awareness that I might need the restoration that I give. Let the church say amen. That was pretty good. Okay, we're going to jump into tonight's teaching. As always, if you'd like to download the notes, they're available there for you in the event description. We are once again in Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. I believe this is week 41. I don't think we've gotten off track. I think we are in week 41. We are understanding that change is the only constant in the universe. We all change, but we change at our own pace and in our own space. There are some themes that we have grabbed throughout this journey together. We know that, according to Tolle, I agree to some part, in some part with this for sure, and it doesn't necessitate your agreement. But Tolle offers that the greatest achievement of mankind is not scientific or technological, medicinal, educational, music, art, all the things that we would like to boast about being humanity's achievements, all wonderful. But that our greatest achievement is our ability to be self-aware, our cognizance of our own insanity, in other words. If we are creating the same pain patterns and cycles, circles, systems that constantly create pain both collectively and individually, our awareness of our insanity is our greatest achievement. Obviously, because the awareness, the recognition of the insanity lays the foundation. It becomes the seed form. It becomes the spark of sanity. Recognizing our dysfunctionality becomes the open door to functionality. It allows us to see. It doesn't mean that we understand exactly what sanity is. It doesn't mean that we have a definition of what functionality looks like. but it recognizes that we have an awareness. We're mindful. We're self-actualized enough to know what we have been doing isn't working, and I'm willing to step out of myself, out of my patterns. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not the thinker. I'm not the memory bank of thoughts or approaches or methodologies or specific ways of choosing to experience life. I am the awareness of that. And in that awareness, I can step back and see it. Not necessarily judge it, condone it, or condemn it, but in that awareness, I have the ability to then transform my life and to hopefully see the collective consciousness as well. We've talked about the ego's desire to identify us. Our identifications may be our possessions, our accomplishments, our careers, our thought forms, or even our physical forms. Sometimes we think we are, I know that I'm not this body. I'm not just a male. I'm not just female. I'm not just white or black or whatever. But we might be in the process of denial that believes we are our thought forms. I am my opinions. I am my doctrines. I am my religion. I am my politics. I am my culture. I'm my tribalization. I am my culture. I am my indoctrinations. We can very easily even take on the form of being, we think we are our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are the spirits capable of thoughts. We are the spirits capable of beliefs, but we are none of those things. We are capable of being aware of all of it. People ask me constantly, D, what do you really believe? And I say, I don't believe anything. I consider a lot of things. I have a diversity of thoughts that I consider, but I'm not the belief, I'm not the thought, I'm the consideration. I'm the awareness that those are there, and if they serve me, wonderful. If they don't, great. If they serve me only for a season, that's good. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little, we are being transformed into the image of spirit. And so when we hold that lightly, it certainly helps us to be a little more self-aware. All right, let's jump in. Last week, we gave you 3 questions, and they were somewhat provocative, hopefully on purpose, and relative to the subject matter. Would you rather expose your children to violence or nudity? And of course, we don't want to encourage child pornography. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the scenarios where in a world of entertainment, would we rather our children see someone shooting someone in the face, MMA fighting with blood all over people's face, violence, destructive nature, or would we rather our child see a naked body on television? And so try not to think pornographically about that. Try to think about what our children would be exposed to on a daily basis, whether on television, radio, their laptops, whatever. Do we cringe more at children seeing nudity, or do we react more to children seeing violence? We asked that question last week. In entertainment, is gratuitous violence always wrong? And so we answered that question. We said, yes, it is always wrong. However, seeing violence in entertainment is not always wrong. If it's depicting the violence of war, of man's inhumanity, sometimes seeing the reality when we declare war on each other can help to be a deterrent. It can help for us to see our insanity. And so the lives that were lost were not lost in vain. It can help us to say we don't want to repeat that history. We want to make a better world for all of us to experience. The last question is it wrong to prey on and profit from other people's pain bodies? And so the pain bodies of insecurity, fear, lack, ignorance at times, or not being exposed to the higher mind, whether it's entertainment, whether it's medicine, whether it's pulpits in religion, whatever that pulpit might look like, whether that's a preacher or a rishi or an imam or a guru or a life coach. When we prey on other people's insecurities or their pain bodies, we are profiting the wrong way. Buddha would encourage us to have right livelihood. That is what he taught as the middle way, or also called the Eightfold Noble Path. Right livelihood means that we are not harming anyone else from our livelihood. So if you're smart enough, if you're witty enough, if you're conniving enough to prey on other people's insecurities, it's probably not something you want to do and say that you're spiritual. We don't profit from other people's pain. and call that spirituality or even good business. Amen, somebody? All right, tonight's questions. We have 5. There's actually one with kind of a 2-part question. I'm going to throw them out to you, then we're going to jump into the teaching tonight. Tonight's lesson is called the collective female pain body. The collective female pain body. And we're going to see the diversity of all that tonight. Number 1, the question is every collective pain body the same? Is every collective, meaning some to the female or feminine energies? Are we in need to more of an openness to the expression of female and feminine energies? Number 4, is God male or female? Is God male or female? And the second part of that question is, was Adam male or female? That's a provocative question there, isn't it? We're going to unpack it a little bit tonight. Number 5, is there a collective female pain body that is keeping women from their fullest experience of life? And so I think you'll find tonight is both extremely complimentary of the female or feminine sacred energy, but it is also offering some help for redirecting any heavy or dense pain body that might keep our female friends from experiencing a fullness of joy and life and peace and all those good things. All right, let's jump in tonight. The collective female pain body. The collective dimension of the pain body has different strands in it. Here's one of the answers to the first question tonight. Here it is immediately. Tribes, nations, races all have their own collective pain body, some heavier than others, and most members of that tribe, nation, or race have a share in it to either to a greater or lesser degree. So, kind of a bit of a rhetorical question, and that is that yes, there are many different types of collective pain bodies. It may be specific to race, to gender, even to religion, to geography. There are pain bodies connected to certain even nations. And so there is a diversity of pain bodies. There is a collective human pain body, but in that large umbrella, there are specific, more diverse collective pain bodies that deal with specific types of pain. Okay. Similarly, almost every woman has her share in the collective female pain body. The suppression of the feminine principle, especially over the past 2,000 years, has enabled the ego to gain absolute supremacy in the collective human psyche. Although women have egos, of course, the ego can take root and grow more easily in the male form than in the female form. So there's the second question. Historically, are women less prone to egoic activity or expression than men are? All right, this is because women are less mind-identified than men. They are more in touch with their inner body and the intelligence of the organism where the intuitive faculties originate. This is not to say that men can't be intuitive, that we cannot be perceptive or empathetic. It is to state the obvious that women's intuition is not necessarily a greater gift. It's something that they are more aware of, more open to, more sensitive to that expression or that gifting of intuition. The female form is less rigidly encapsulated than the male, has greater openness and sensitivity toward other life forms, and is more attuned to the natural world. When's the last time you heard of a bunch of women getting together to make money from fighting dogs, from dog fights? Maybe it exists. I'm sure on some level it does, but that would not be the norm. Okay. When's the last time you heard of a female terrorist? They do exist. They are there. But it is less likely in the female or feminine mind than in the male mind. We've had, just a few weeks ago, a tragic shooting in Tennessee that was by a young woman, but she was not as in touch with her feminine self as many women are. And her pain body was very heavy as a transgender that was not really embraced in her childhood environment. And so there are some things we can point to with that help us not to condone or condemn necessarily, but to understand the heavy pain body. Okay, if the balance between male and female energies had not been destroyed on our planet, the ego's growth would have been greatly curtailed. We would not have declared war on nature. Okay, interesting. We call it Mother Nature. That's an interesting female energy. And we would not be so completely alienated from our being. So there comes the next question. Are we in need of more openness to female or feminine energies? Not just in our personal lives, but in the collective humanity. Nobody knows the exact figure because records were not kept. But I thought this was very both interesting and horrible when I was going through the teaching tonight. Records were not kept, but it seems certain that during a 300-year period, between 3 and 5 million women were tortured and killed by the Holy Inquisition. So, if you need a human timeline for that, and remember, these lines only exist because we say that it's 2023, but about 1500-ish, 1200 to 1500 to 6, that era there is kind of considered the Dark Ages. It is considered medieval. It's a very dark time in humanity, both plagues, the Inquisition of the Christian church going around and killing those who would not be converted to Christianity, killing those in their own religion that didn't follow it exactly the way that they wanted to. But during that Holy Inquisition, it is posited that between 3 and 5 million women were tortured and killed during this Holy Inquisition, an institution founded by the Roman Catholic Church to suppress heresy. Now that's not just in women. That was also in scientists, inventors, the medical world. It was considered heresy to even do any type of autopsy on a dead body so that medical science could learn from it. There were many. It was heresy to say that the sun is the center of our solar system. The earth is the center of the solar. It was heresy to say that the earth is round because the Bible, Genesis, talks about the earth being flat in its dimensions. All these that's why it's called the Dark Ages, because education, art, science were being rejected because it didn't line up specifically with biblical teaching. The Bible was promoted over science, over female energies. All this was a very dark time in humanity. This surely ranks together with the Holocaust and slavery as one of the darkest chapters in human history. It was enough, listen to this, it was enough for a woman to show a love for animals, to walk alone in the fields or woods, or gather medicinal plants to be branded a witch. So if you had an abundance of love for animals, if you walked alone at times, or if you gathered medicine from plants, you could be branded a witch, tortured and burned at the stake. That's pretty difficult. We think that only existed in European countries, but it was very, very prominent in the early colonization of America. And if you talk about the witch trials, all that was happening up and down the east coast of the Americas. Let's see. The sacred feminine was declared demonic, and an entire dimension largely disappeared from the human experience. Other cultures and religions such as Judaism, Islam, and even Buddhism. So it wasn't specific to Christianity, not just the Roman Catholic Church, but we see that happening in Judaism, in Islam, and even in Buddhism, which a lot of people consider to be a more spiritual expression of religion or spirituality. But even in Buddhism, they're very heavy in restrictions toward women being monastic or in monasteries as monks, being leaders. And so it is changing, but religion is crazy everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, you're going to find some subjugation, some misogyny in religion. Okay, let's see. also suppressed the female dimension, all these other religions, although in a less violent way. I would argue that that's not always true. Women's status was reduced to being child bearers and men's property. If you read through the Pentateuch, through some of the Mosaic teaching, the first 5 books of the Bible, you find that women were considered property. They were kind of like a dowry. Even a younger woman, according to Moses' writings and teaching, was considered twice as valuable as an older woman because they were considered kind of like livestock, like property. Males who denied the feminine, even within themselves, were now running the world, a world that was totally out of balance. Wow, the rest is history, or rather a case history of insanity. So, here's the next couple of questions. Is God male or female? You would be surprised how many Christians would answer this question a specific way. Is God male or female? Okay, I want you to ask yourself that question tonight. And a little bit more specifically, was Adam male or female? I have my own thoughts about that, and I have my own conjecture from biblical study. Is God male or female? And was Adam male or female? Who was responsible for this fear, as we continue, of the feminine that can only be described as acute collective paranoia? Why were we so afraid of feminine expression? We could say, of course, men were responsible. But then, why in many ancient pre-Christian civilizations, such as the Sumerian, Egyptian, and Celtic, were women respected and the feminine principle not feared but revered? So that's an interesting question. Was it always just men? If so, and Christian men, if so, why were these pre-Christian expressions seemingly more open, more respectful, and inclusive of the feminine energy? Interesting. Okay. What is it that suddenly made men threatened by the female? The evolving ego in them. Wow. I knew it. It knew it could gain full control of our planet only through the male form. And to do so, it had to render the female powerless. In time, the ego also took over most women. Interesting right here. Listen to this. This is talking about how the pain body, the collective female pain body, can limit the feminine expression, the female, from having its fullest joy. In time, the ego also took over most women, although it can never become as deeply entrenched in them as men. We now have a situation in which the suppression of the feminine has become more internalized, even in most women. The sacred feminine, because it is suppressed, is felt by many women as emotional pain. Here we go. Remember, we talked a couple of weeks ago about heavy and dense pain bodies. How many women experience a heavy, emotional, dense pain body because of the collective historical pain body of the female expression? Interesting. In fact, it has become part of their pain body, together with the accumulated pain suffered by women over millennia through childbirth, rape, slavery, torture, violent death, discrimination, not giving women the same wage as men, misogyny, positional leadership being limited to the male form. Think about in America, as free and enlightened as we think we are, we have not yet had a female president. We have our first female vice president, and maybe the change is happening among us. But I think that's very indicative that we have not yet had a female president. So this is, I think, maybe possibly the last question we'll ask tonight, and then we'll jump into our discussion in just a moment. Is there a collective female pain body that is keeping women, and that's a stereotype, of course, we're all individuals, but keeping a majority of women from their fullest experience of life? Is the collective pain body keeping many, maybe possibly even most women, from a full experience of life? But things are rapidly changing now, good news. With many people becoming more conscious, the ego is losing its hold on the human mind. Because the ego was never as deeply rooted in women, it is losing its hold on women more quickly than in men. All right, so happy early Mother's Day to everyone. We got to give a lot of love and respect to the female and sacred feminine expression tonight. And hopefully that's something that resonates in our hearts. All right, let's talk a little bit tonight.
All right, and just a reminder for everyone, we posted the questions in all of your chats, so on all the different platforms, if you want to refer back. Miss Bobby shared, no, every collective pain body is not the same. It can be memories from your past hurts or present confusion or confrontations you encounter. We constantly walk in and out of our feelings. Mm-hmm. I can rise above the situation and look down to attempt to see much clearer what's actually happening right now.
Yeah. Isn't that very perceptive, Bobby? Thank you for sharing. Both in our personal lives, whether it's our personal memories, emotions, those are diverse, aren't they? No one's individual pain is exactly alike. Even if we share the same race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, country of origin, geography, we're Southern, we're Northern, whatever. Even in the same family, isn't that true, Bobby? That even in the same family, our pain bodies may be a little different. We may even see the same images and process them differently in the same family unit. So think about how diverse a collective pain body would be. For to say that that all women experience the collective pain body the same probably isn't right. Think about being raised in the state of California in a pretty metropolitan area, or maybe in somewhere like New York City. The level of opportunity for women probably would be much more enhanced than if you grew up in Iran or Iraq or in Egypt or in another country or in Nigeria, somewhere of that like that. So it is not. We can't say that any collective pain bodies are the same, can we? Whether it's racial, tribal, country, religious, they are all very diverse. We have some similar pains, but our pains are very diverse. I love it that you shared anecdotally, Bobby, from your own personal life. Thank you.
Jen Stevenson referred to Henry VIII, who beheaded his wives because he didn't want to divorce them, and all done in the name of religion.
Yeah. And sometimes, thank you, Jen, beheaded them because they didn't have a boy. Can you imagine the aggressive nature of the male ego that thinks it's a woman's job to produce male heirs? And if she doesn't, in the dark ages, maybe even some today, that they would be put to death because it's their fault? I think that's craziness. Even more in recent history, we know that as China was becoming extremely overpopulated, and just let me say this to everyone who's listening tonight, this is my opinion, and you certainly are entitled to your own. I think you know that. I am of the opinion that there are too many human beings on the earth. I think we've done our Genesis job of replenishing and multiplying. We have enough people on the earth. We have more people than we have food supplies at times, and even with that, we're hoarding some of the food that we have. And so the wealth disparity, the food disparities are something it's a very ugly blemish on humanity. And so just let me encourage everyone out there, birth control is of God. This is my opinion. Take it for what you want. But we don't need to continue in this Genesis command to replenish the earth. We have lots of people on the earth. Sit in traffic on 285 and tell me that we need more people on the earth. Okay, so that's just what it is. But in China, they realized that the population was growing out of control. And so they gave a government dictate that each family was only allowed one child. Now listen to this male egoic energy. So many families that had a female or daughter first would either give that child up for adoption or even kill the child because the male ego needed the name or the male energy to go on. Yeah, that's a lot to think about. Whether it's Henry VIII, China, America, business moguls. I'm watching a show now, Jen, called Succession. It's kind of a dark expose of the ego, and this business mogul had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and there's still even this kind of tension, should the girl be allowed to take over the business from her father? And so, yeah, unfortunately that does still exist today, and it existed tremendously in the Dark Ages. Thanks for sharing.
So I don't have any more comments, but if I added up, did a percentage of women that are on tonight, if I did a percentage of women to men, it is heavily women. So come on, ladies, come on. Surely you've got more to say about this topic.
I'll give you some time if you'd like to say more about it. But I want to go through the questions, and I won't answer all of them. We've already answered, is every collective pain body the same? No, we've answered that, and the teaching answered it for us tonight. And then Miss Bobby offered that to us as well. Historically, are women less prone to egoic activity than men? It does seem to be that way. There aren't, and possibly it could be because of the egoic hierarchy.
Ooh, can I throw something out
Of
on
course,
that? Because
yeah.
I'd like to hear your response on it.
Okay.
I was thinking this earlier. That question, how was it worded again? Historically, are women less prone to egoic activity than men? Well, you just brought up the show Succession. So let's think about it this way. Is it that they're less prone to an egoic activity? Or is it that there's less opportunity? Meaning
exactly
they're out in the forefront less, so it doesn't present. Instead, we were forced to be demure and never speak up. But it doesn't, I'd like to sit here and say that as a female, I'm less prone to egoic activity. I'll claim that if you want me to. But when the truth, if I really give the truth, given the opportunity.
So that's an interesting question. It's actually, it took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask that question. Is we can't answer that question precisely, because how many women have led nations? Of course, we watch movies like Black Panther. We know about Joan of Arc. Yes, in no way am I diminishing women of history who have played incredible roles in leadership positions, and we need more. But as Brandy added, it may be a difficult question to answer because there have been less chances for the ego to be seen. So either we speculate, or we can take from our experiential data that women seem to be more nurturing, more aware of nature, more. Think about, Jesus asked the question, does nature not teach us? How many times in the animal kingdom, and I'm not comparing us to animals, although I do think we are human animals. We are evolving from the animal mind into the human and spirit mind. That's just my personal journey. You don't have to believe that. But in the animal kingdom, how many times does a male tiger, lion, duck, anything, adopt a puppy, a tiger, a cub from another litter? But story after story, we see female lions, tigers, all through both the mammalian kingdom, even in the fish world. We see this kind of motherly instinct in some of the females to even adopt children that have been neglected, or the parents were killed in some ways. I've even seen a female tiger adopt a piglet, nurse the piglet, treat it as its own little tiger. Tigers eat pigs, but this female adopted it. I watched a documentary on a female lion adopt an antelope that was left by itself, nursed it, protected it. Ended tragically because a male came along and killed the antelope. Yeah, lions eat antelopes. But think about this. Even in the animal kingdom, how many times does a male kill its own children, kill its own puppies, its own cubs? Or kill, if a new male lion comes in as the male of that pride, will go and kill all of the other cubs that came from another male. He wants none of his genes to... Wow, that's a strong male energy, isn't it? And I'm not saying that all human males have that animal mind, but it is less likely that we see that. And so that's a great qualifying question. So historically, we would say It is less prone, but it may depend on opportunity as well. That's very good.
Yeah, and another thing to offer from just my corporate experience, what do I say all the time? So those of you, I would come around where you could see me, but I might knock something over. But but I currently work for all men. What do I say all the time?
I hate working for women. I'm so happy that I work for men.
I'm so happy I work for all men right now, and you would think it would be opposite, but yeah. So I'll get to Miss Cheryl's comment in a second.
Shh. Come here. You want to say hello? Say hello to everybody. Am I Lola? Okay, that's the female energy coming to say hello.
She hears me. She hears me talking. Lots of comments now to get through. So
okay, so yeah, let's get to the comments, and I'll go back to the questions.
Well, no. Go.
Let's get to the comments. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So a little different perspective from Miss Irma. She said our egos are in tune, are as in tuned as men, but we have learned not to act upon them. Mm-hmm. We tend to take the pain inside, which causes, unexplainable pain. We must learn to hold on to our realness and realize and trust that we have a voice.
That's great, Irma. And I would add to that question as well, not that I can answer it specifically, but has there been an adoption of a male archetype or a patriarchal type hierarchy that exists unconsciously in women who gain leadership status or prominence or prowess of some sort because they think that's the only way to rule? I've been around many women whose strength burned me a little bit. That may or may not be all their fault because they're exposed to this patriarchal system that has indoctrinated us to believe that we have to rule with an iron fist. We rule by power, not by shared power. And so that's a great observation, Irma.
All right, so lots of questions coming through. I knew you would come through, ladies, women out there. Lots to get to. I think some good conversation here. But first, Richard, thank you, Richard, wrote, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. In the past, man was able to successfully control females, slaves, and other groups they consider not equal. When the man controlled the mind of females and other groups, they also control their behavior and self-identity. When allowed to define a person, you control the individual.
Whew, that's a lot to chew on, Richard. Wow, you are the MVP of Wednesday night, that's for sure. We referred to the book of Eli a couple of weeks ago, Richard, talking about mind control. Whether that's biblical, whether that's patriarchal archetypes, whether that is last week's teaching on preying on or profiting from other people's pain bodies, whether that be the pain body of feminine suppression or the pain body that the male energy has been too strong. It's been overbearing. Yeah, all that can come back connected to control, can it, Richard? Very, very good observation. Thank you.
So Miss Mary shared, I remember wanting to go to school to be a doctor, but my mother felt that I couldn't be a doctor and I should go for nursing, and that burst my bubble. So I lost all interest. My feelings were really hurt because I thought that she would be in my corner.
That's a difficult pain body, and maybe sharing it, Mary, is cathartic tonight. Thank you for sharing that with us. I won't say who. I'll be cautious, but we have a family member who. My daughter wanted to be in some type of medicine from an early age. She wanted to, at first she thought maybe she would be a veterinarian. Then she flirted with being like an oceanographer or marine biologist, somehow helping sea turtles and dolphins and things of that nature. And so we were at SeaWorld, and Esther was just so taken with it. She said, Dad, I would like to help dolphins. And she didn't even know what to call it. She didn't know if it was a marine biologist or zoologist, whatever. And there was a person in our family who said, oh, no, that's not for you, Esther. You need to be a Disney princess. And both Brandy and me were like, hold on. Don't limit our daughter to this feminine, lack of ability to be in medicine, or And so, obviously, Mary, we give thanks that that wasn't a limiting voice that helped or that had any influence on Esther. She broke through that. But I do feel that is still alive, Mary, whether it's in our families, whether it's collectively, societally, that women should just, there's a popular song out a couple years ago that says, "I'm not going to sit still, look pretty." And I forget who the artist was, but she was saying, I'm powerful. I'm more powerful than you could ever imagine. I can do what I put my mind to do. My job is not just to sit still and look pretty. And so that's interesting, Mary. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight.
All right, so Miss Cheryl, I think can kind of relate probably from my professional experience, because I love women otherwise, just not in the professional setting. But I've had lots of wonderful female friends in the professional setting, but they're just not the best bosses. Sorry. I've tried to change that by being a good boss, right? Okay. I have had a different experience from a female perspective. This is Cheryl Handy. I have had a different experience from a female perspective. Most females carry a heavy pain body of insecurities and lack of self-love and self-compassion that often manifest as jealousy of others.
Yeah, and the experience would be diverse, hopefully, Cheryl, that it's not all men are not the same, all women are not the same, all companies are not the same, all corporations aren't the same, of course. Yeah, I think maybe that even touches back into, to some degree, Cheryl, to what I think we have to look at compassionately, or at least be open to the compassion, that sometimes when we feel that jealousy, that turf guarding from female higher ups, maybe that is something they learn from the male archetype in some ways. Doesn't necessarily excuse it, because we learn a lot of things by osmosis. We learn a lot of things environmentally. That I learned a lot of things in religion. That's not who I am. I don't blame the devil for everything in my life. I don't live under that cloud that it's never my fault. It's always spiritual warfare. I don't live in that. I don't believe in hell. I don't think gay people are going to, that was a learned behavior, and all that. So I don't give credence to we are only our experience. We are only our environment. I think we're so much bigger than that. But I think there is some sympathy it begs some compassion that so many women have felt the pressure to get ahead. You have to behave in that male energy. And so I feel you, Cheryl, but the experience would be diverse. Thank you for sharing.
So this will be a good segue into Terry Johnson's comment, because again, I'll go back to my original observation, which was just the opportunity wasn't there. So is the energy that we feel sometimes for women in power making a name for themselves? They didn't have it for so long. Yeah. So this is a good segue. Would you say women, let's say black women or single moms, have to at some point rely on that ego to survive? Yeah,
that's digging deep into the collective black pain body. Is that Terry asking that?
Terry Johnson.
Terry Johnson was asking that. So Terry, obviously I'm not black. I've been close to some degree to the black experience. People tell me that I have a ghetto past or whatever, and I try to hold that lightly. I know that I am white. I know that there's some privilege and all that entitled with that. With that said, I have done some study with what became a predominantly matriarchal black America. And that is not always completely to be blamed on black absentee fathers. Think about the heavy collective black male pain body in America. The existence on plantations of being basically beaten into submission, white slave masters being afraid of strong black male slaves and basically degrading them in front of their wives, sometimes not allowing them to be married. I was unaware of the tradition of black couples jumping the broom. That was kind of the way they said we were married on plantations. because sometimes white owners would not allow them to be married. So I can feel in my own way the collective heavy male, African American male pain body. I know that it's there. That does not excuse in any way any stereotypical behavior of absentee fathers or whatever that is. And there are obviously many, many, many incredible examples of black fathers, black leadership, black excellence in America, in our own church. I mean, we are overly abundant with so many powerful black men, black fathers who are both sensitive, caring, caretakers, nurturing, and wonderful providers as well. And so, we don't give credence to anything being true across the board. We also want to be sympathetic, though, that because of a difficult history in this country, there arose a matriarchal power in the black community that, as you referred to, Terry, has taken on necessarily some of the male expression, some of the strength of the patriarchy. And so, wow, what an amazing study. I took a course recently in basically black history and the Bible. And it was a very difficult course because of the Bible's use against the black family, of the black male, endorsing slavery. That's why we refer to it Spirit and True Sanctuary. Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist, an incredible thinker who kind of said the Bible is a book of promise and poison. It could be very, very positive and very, very destructive, and it had been on the black community in both respects. And so I think that's a great observation, Terry. There's a lot of pain involved in it. Hopefully there's also a lot of empathy that things don't just turn out to be one way someday. It's a process. There's a lot of painful history that creates our present reality. Frederick Douglass also encouraged us that where there's no struggle, there's no progress, but don't drown in the struggle. And so, yes, we are aware of the painful history of America. We're aware of why the black matriarchy is what it is and why the expression is. But we also want to be self-aware that we don't have to give in to all of that. We want to know that we are not always the street that we were raised on. And so it's difficult to hold that awareness panoramically, but that's what we attempt to do. Thank you. What a thoughtful observation, Terry. Thank you for that.
So Richard wrote back in, I guess responding to me and the point I made, and said, I mainly had more female bosses and really preferred female managers over male managers. And so I take a step back and think, then it's relative, it's part of the experience. And so there's more to it than just simply, and that's with anything that we think about and talk about. But that was an interesting perspective.
And aren't we all distinct? And aren't all of our experiences all distinct? Yeah, I think I try to take myself, Richard, as an anomaly. I am white, male, heterosexual. I don't know that I'm heteronormative because I try to be in touch with some feminine energies. I was a Division I college athlete, blessed with a pretty good genes, a very strong, athletic, powerful body at some point in my life. At 50, not as much, but I was always sensitive to any bullying around me. I did not like the popular crowd as much. My friends in high school sometimes were artsy fartsy. My best friend, my closest friend since I was 18 years old, is a gay man. I married he and his husband. So yeah, you're right, Richard. You can't really stereotype any specific person. People might think that's one of the articles that was written about me in Rolling Stone. They called me a bulked up ex-jock. Basically a musclehead. They called me a beefy musclehead. And I read the teachings of Lao Tzu. I consider that there was another race of humans before the Adamic race. I think on many different planes. I don't like for people to call me a jock. I don't even like for people to call me heterosexual. I am a heterosexual, but I'm not heteronormative. And so whether it's female bosses, white, straight pastors who love gay people and have a majority African American church, what are the stereotypes that are around us? And who knows? We all are individual. We all have an individual experience. Thank you, Richard.
All right, we're at time, but a couple of good kind of closing comments here. Pastor Gloria is so sweet. She shared, I don't believe God is a male or female. I believe God is a spirit, love, energy, powerful, and many other things that are necessary and needed to live out this life on earth.
Look at Pastor Gloria. I love it. Thank you, Pastor Gloria. Yeah. Jesus prayed, Our Father. Does that mean God is male? Think about this, Pastor Gloria. Jesus also gave his blood. Does that mean God wanted it? Jesus spoke our language. Our language was blood. Moses told us from Egyptian paganism into Zoroastrianism, into Judaism, finally into Christianity, that blood is what God demands. Did God ever demand that? I don't think God demands blood, but Jesus willingly shed blood to speak our language. What if Jesus was speaking our language when he said Father? What if he knew in his day and time, if he had said, Our Mother who art in heaven, people would have been like, what the hell? Did this heretic just talk about some Our Mother? Jesus was raised in a very patriarchal society. And so did even Jesus believe that God was male? Yeah, those are interesting questions. That's beautiful, Gloria. Thank you.
All right. Miss Sandra Mack wrote in that her comment is in reference to question 5. So that's, is there a collective female pain body that is keeping women from their fullest experience of life? And she said, because women are still being kept from their fullest experience of life in today's world.
Yeah. So the question, Sandra, I think that's 2 parts. Yeah, you definitely spoke to one of them. Women are being kept in so many respects from their fullest expression of life on an individual basis. Maybe let's apply this to the individual experience as you as a woman, my daughter as a woman, my sister, my wife, my mother. Do we allow the collective pain body to keep us individually from experiencing our fullest selves? Despite corporations, companies, politics, the corporate ladder, whatever, American patriarchy, whatever that is, that was the question applied collectively. But I think it's two-edged sword, like you said, Sandra. It is, yeah, we are, because we're being kept from that. There is still wage disparity. Yeah, women still don't get paid the same amount for what a man does in many respects. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think that's true. The awareness there is to be sensitive to not allow the collective pain body to keep you in your individual relationships from experiencing yourself the way that you want to. But yeah, I agree with you, Sandra. Beautiful.
All right, this is also good. So I'm gonna make you work overtime tonight, D.E.
Uh-oh.
So everyone hang with us.
You got to pay me an extra time and a half tonight.
So LaDonna wrote in, that's a great point about our Father being spoken by Jesus, because he knew that's what mankind would understand at that point in history. Never thought about it that way.
Yeah, and maybe, who knows, LaDonna, as you and I say, I think it. I don't believe everything I think, but at least it's an interesting thought. Maybe he was speaking their language in some ways. Maybe also, LaDonna, think about this. I know this is off the subject, but you and I talk this way. What if when Jesus said, why do you call me good? No one's good but God. Maybe if he was more in tune with his divinity, but he knew if he said I'm God, they were going to kill him anyway. So we, as I learned at Emory, where the Bible does not speak, theologians speculate. And so we don't want to build a religion on our speculations. That's good, LaDonna. Thank you.
Did you see Lola pop in wanting to make her feminine energy being seen tonight?
Feminine energy. She was calling it for.
Okay. Yeah. Two more quick ones here. Okay. A couple of very sweet things. So Laverne said, I would say this. It's a man's world, but like James Brown's song states, it would mean nothing without a woman or a girl.
But it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. This is a man's world. Yeah, good observation.
Hilarious. And then Miss Irma, I have to pause and read your comment. She said, I love my pastors and my church. Thank you both for being so open and thoughtful minded. So I would just say right back at you. Point all the fingers back at you, because that's what we have tonight is a shared, open and thoughtful-minded group. So we deserve each other, as D.E.
Don't
always
we, Irma?
says.
Look at this community that we've created together. Of course, it was in my heart. I think so much of what we experienced was in my father's heart, in my mother's heart, in our late bishop's heart. We certainly have taken it to another level of expression, but we tolerated the shift as a spiritual community together. Now we're learning to celebrate it, and we should be, in some ways, very, very proud, not prideful, but we should be very proud of how far we've come together and of what our expression is. I'm in no ways live in false humility. I am proud of what we've created together. It's not something that we compare with a lot of other churches. We're not proud that we're the biggest church in the world, but I'm proud that we have the ability to have this conversation tonight. We're open to having it, and that's because, Irma, you're open to having it, and you stuck around long enough to have it with us. Thank you. All right, we're going to give some shouts out to some peoples tonight. I'm not reading fast because I don't think you're important, but I know that we're past time. Pastor Gloria and Howard, Dr. Ray, Jen, Emma, Ben, and Vicky. Call Ben up. Josephine, Pastor Don, Laverne, Billy, Don Hall, all the way in Prague, Czech Republic. Love you, Don. Bobby Moore, Miss Myrna, Elaine, Sheila, Doreen, Roberta, Sandra, Irma, Pastor Fred and Mary, Alma, Taria, Donald, Dinah, and Brandon, Tanya, Oprah Winfrey, Cheryl, Susan, Reverend David, Michael, Penny. I saw Penny, got to wave at Penny on Sunday. Esther, folks, Pastor LaDonna, Megan, Gloria, Callie, Lovey. What a great name, Lovey. Who wouldn't want to be named Lovey? I love that. What if your last name was Loving Good? Think about that, Lovey Hobbs. Lovey, Loving Good? Holy crap. Okay. I digress. Maud, Richard, Lenora, Carla, and Sasha. Thank you, guys. Sasha Fierce. Is that kind of like Sasha Fierce? That's Beyonce's alter ego, Sasha Fierce. Sasha Fierce. Love that. Yeah. Well, thank you for being with us tonight. We love you guys. Thank you for such a wonderful conversation. Looking forward to connecting with you again Friday morning in our devotion. And then Sunday is Mother's Day. Every day's Mother's Day, but we're going to celebrate it Sunday. Let's read our closing affirmation together tonight. Tonight, I am willing to recognize dysfunction, hopefully my own. If suffering is the normal state of humanity, I don't want to be normal. If I've created God in my image, there we go, in my male image, I will surrender to the truth that I am made in God's image. I'm neither an external physical form nor any internal thought form. I am a spiritual being capable of experiencing physical form and the observing presence, open to considering a diversity of thoughts. My present thoughts do not reflect my eternal capacity. My potential for awakening to self and spiritual transformation are endless, as was the teaching tonight. Amen. And so it is. We love you guys. Thanks for such a great conversation tonight. Go in peace. We'll see you soon.